Hello students, Mr. Young here, working from home. Today we're talking about Chapter 10, Lesson 3. So we've been talking about the Warring States period. The last empire, the Zhao, had broken apart. The nobles more or less broke off, forming their own little kingdoms, and were all fighting for control. How did this period come to an end? Well, someone finally beat everyone else. China came under the yoke of one leader, the strongest, known as the Qin. We'll learn more about the Qin on the next page, as well as their successors, the Han Dynasty. Alright, so the Qin. The Qin ruler conquered a large swath of kingdoms in 221 BC using cavalry, so horse-mounted troops. This marked a new beginning in Chinese history. He declared himself Qin Shi Huangdi, or the first Qin Emperor. Qin created a government that would actually last many centuries. The Qin wouldn't last very long, but the government he set up would be a good framework. So, Qin wanted to unify China. He did so under some pretty harsh rules, though. He appointed governors, no more of that hereditary business from the Zhao Empire, where their son would now be the governor, and then their son's son. Now, you were only governor if he appointed you. His control was absolute, and if anyone said or did anything he didn't like, they were punished or killed. He actually had special officers called censors to make sure workers did their jobs, kind of like a commissar type thing, with these guys going around making sure you were doing what you were supposed to be doing. Doesn't sound pleasant. So, Qin was kind of a jerk, right? Regardless, he did get some good business done. Public works projects like roads were completed, temples, things like that. He had scholars redo the written language to make it more simple. He even had a standardized currency or money made so that everyone had the same money and they all had to use it. One amazing thing he did, although kind of self-centered, was he had a tomb built for himself, and it was filled with this army of clay soldiers. You may have seen them around before. It's pretty fascinating. And there they are, a whole army of clay soldiers and horses. What about the Great Wall of China, Mr. Yund? I heard that's in China. Indeed, pupils, it is. You see, the Chinese had a problem with these nomadic folk living in the Gobi Desert off to the west called the Xiannu. They would ride in and attack Chinese settlements. They were also fought on horseback. To prevent this, former leaders, those little sub-kingdoms, had already started building chunks of wall, and Qin worked to connect these walls, making the Great Wall of China. There's actually a lot more information on this. Feel free to look it up. Now, in 221 BC, Qin had boasted that his dynasty would last forever, and as it turns out, his harsh ways would be his empire's undoing. A mere 4 years after his death, aristocrats and commoners alike rose up against his rule, bringing an end to the Qin dynasty. Did not last forever. That brings us to the Han Dynasty, because out of the ashes of the Qin came the Han Dynasty. It was created by a farmer turned soldier named Liu Bang. Although he was sort of the leader of the uprising, the first really strong emperor of the Han was named Han Wudi. A major contribution of Han Wudi was his new system of choosing government officials. He's the guy that started civil service tests. We talked about this a little bit with Confucianism. Scholars would recommend applicants for government jobs. These applicants would take a brutal written exam, and the guy with the highest score would get the job. The problem with this is that commoners could seldom read, so upward mobility for sort of the common peasant was still somewhat limited. But hey, that Liu Bang was a farmer, and he ended up, overthrowing a government. There's always a way if there's a will. Han Wudi created schools to actually educate these folks to take the civil service exam. They studied law, history, and Confucianism. These educated men were greatly respected in society, and actually they ended up with a sort of a new class of people, the scholarly class. The Han Dynasty had some food problems. The population of China grew to 60 million under the rule of Han, and more food was needed. Many farmers did not have enough land to feed their families. We had talked previously about how land was split up equally among the sons, and so it kept getting smaller and smaller until this time in the Han Dynasty, like all the farmers had 1 acre of land, and it just wasn't enough to feed their families. So a lot of them ended up selling their land to someone wealthy, and then they had to basically had owned their land, and now they were renting their own land. And then you end up having all the land in the hands of a wealthy few once more. So not a good situation for the farmers. Now, the Han had a peaceful era of about 150 years after beating back those Gobi nomads. In this time, culture flourished. Confucianism spread, and even less affluent folk were able to purchase some art, some nice art for your walls. A new class of scholars materialized, the ones we just mentioned, but even so, the old classes still remained. All in all, life in ancient China between the Qin and Han dynasties was kind of the same for your average Joe Schmo person. There were, however, some important inventions that came about during the Han dynasty. Things like new farming tools made of iron made more irrigation possible. They had an iron plow now that could do much better work than a wooden plow. And with these basically new farming inventions, they were able to grow more food because land that had previously you had been unable to farm could now be farmed. Other inventions include the water wheel, which was used in mills to grind grains and things like that. You have a water wheel, you think like a big wheel, and you put it in a stream and it rotates and it powers something mechanical. Also, they had the invention of the rudder on their sailboats so they could sail against the wind. They also used paper and even invented the wheelbarrow. In terms of medicine, they invented acupuncture. I linked that here so you can read all about acupuncture. But it mainly involves you lying there and getting pricked with a bunch of little needles. And it's supposed to make your chi better, your energy. Let's head up this Silk Road real quick. It was during the Han Dynasty that ideas from China spread to other lands, and in turn, ideas from other lands entered China. You see, around the year 139 BC, Han Wudi sent a general west to find allies to fight China's enemies, like the nomads. The general was gone for 13 years, and he came back, but he didn't find any allies, but he basically brought back a whole lot of information about the outside world. Really opened up a Pandora's box of information to China about the world around them and other cultures, and effectively really began the whole foreign trade. And that's where the Silk Road comes in. It was not one road, but really a series of trade routes that ended up stretching 4,000 miles all the way from China to the Mediterranean Sea. A major export of China was silk, but they exported other goods, and basically this new trade allowed China to trade their goods for goods from other countries that they hadn't been able to get before. Things like exotic fruits and stuff like that. Along with these foreign goods, you had new ideas entering China, among them Buddhism. From India, though. So Buddhism came from India, typo. Buddhism did not gain many followers at first, but did find more success in the chaos that ensued after the collapse of the Han Dynasty. Collapse of the Han Dynasty, you say? Indeed I did. After Han Wudi, there was a succession of weak and ineffective rulers. Corruption ran rampant, they were stealing land from the farmers, and as a result, people once again began to rebel. By 220 BC, China was once again a divided nation, and by 400 AD, Buddhism had spread and become one of the major religions of China. Up next, you have a quiz, sort of a simple quiz on all this information we just went over, which was quite a lot. If you have any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, have a wonderful day.